The American Association of Christian Counselors and Light University welcome you to a professional program in Christian life coaching. AACC wishes you special blessings as you begin this incredible study.
Welcome to the next panel in this series. This one's entitled New Directions, Specialty Coaching. As I mentioned in the opening, coaching is a diverse field with a variety of different specialties, sort of niches in the market. And you've been hearing from various coaches throughout this series who actually are quite expert in a variety of different niches, so to speak, areas where they have found expertise in their field, or they've grown into, or their own life journey has taken them into. And now you're going to get a chance to meet them more personally, hear some of their story, hear how they got into coaching, and how in their specialty, their niche, they work. And they work with people, the kind of people they work with. And you'll also be hearing a little bit about how you can discover your niche, your specialty as a coach. So I'd like to introduce the panel to you. To my left is Dwight Bain, and I have Katie Brazelton, and Sandra Doff, and Georgia Schaefer. Welcome. Thanks for being with us. And we are looking forward to getting to know you a little bit, hearing your stories, and I'm just intrigued to hear, because some of you, I don't even know your stories that well myself. So Dwight, I would like to know if you could tell us and the viewers what your specialty, your niche in coaching is, and a little bit of the kind of people that you work with.
Well, I'd love to, because I didn't go looking for coaching almost 30 years ago, but it found me back when I was doing corporate training and corporate speaking for Fortune 100 companies around the country. Some of the executives would say, "Can you coach me?" They would hear me as a speaker and say, can you coach me? And to be honest, I didn't know what that was, because I thought of it more in terms of like a sport. But I also
raw coach, you know.
Well, like Little League, or maybe in sports. So I started to do some research. I started to do some training, and I found out that executive coaching, working with key CEOs, working with professional athletes, working with individuals that own their own businesses, frequently they didn't have anybody that they could trust in their company, because they were the president, they were the CEO, or they were that very public person, the celebrity that maybe might not go out in public, but if they trusted someone, they found me. And so that was really my journey of how I got started, was this whole process of people saying, "Can you help?" And then me, it's starting me on a quest of saying, okay, let me find out more about coaching. And I'm so glad and so excited that they got me started, because I am passionate about helping people in the field of their small business, or helping individuals with performance and being able to reach their goals, particularly in the business world, the corporate world.
That is just great. That's a great example of how an area of your expertise, and people really sought you out to say, you know, show me how to go next level in my own life and in my business. And
well, I was able to do that not just in one-on-one, but sometimes because people who are CEOs in this media world that we live in, I've spent a couple of decades working in the field of media, so it would be training them and coaching them to be able to deal with television cameras, to be able to have a press conference. Much of the coaching that I do is very short term. I've kind of dropped in to help deal with very specific situations. It doesn't tend to be long term. I'll kind of get the baton for a period of time, then I'll hand that baton off to the next coach. And that's a big part of what people need to understand about coaching, because it's not uncommon at all for a person to be with a coach for a period of time, and then they get referred on to the next coach to deal with another area of their life, because there are so many different niches and so many different subspecialties.
That's a great point, and I'd like to come back to that too, because you could have maybe one or two or three coaches in your life over a period of time who really have a special niche in an area that can really contribute to your life. You know,
women said amen to weight coaching.
Oh, amen, definitely. Now, Katie, you really have a different niche in the coaching market.
Well, it's the Life Purpose Coaching Centers International is the name of the ministry that I founded, and I actually brought our ministry vision for the training centers.
We like vision. We like vision statements.
It's a good statement. So we train, equip, and certify life purpose coaches and two-day intensive life plan facilitators to develop and manage their own life purpose coaching centers globally. And we exist to help men and women become Christian coaching entrepreneurs by giving them a platform, a network, a proven process. You liking it so far?
I'm liking it.
Okay, a
I like
reputation.
helping entrepreneurs.
Reputation, credentials, certification, some standard operating procedures, you got to have those, and brand recognition. And then we teach these coaches and facilitators to soar on wings like eagles from Isaiah 40:31.
Amen.
So what kind of people then would you say are drawn to the Life Purpose Coaching Centers?
Well, I would say it seems to
What's
be
the
from
image?
parachurch organizations a lot. Focus on the Family, Campus Crusade, Jesus Film, youth workers, children's ministry directors. Oh, you know who else it is? It's life coaches from the secular world who are tired of not being able to say the name of Jesus Christ in their coaching practice. And so I don't know if you even know this, Sandra, but we've grown to 35 states and 5 countries. And we have emails on a monthly basis from, I would say, anywhere 5 to 20 countries. And so it's really
And see, and
become
that
fun.
shows how this whole thing of coaching is just mushrooming and growing and growing and growing. And I believe that it will continue to just explode out because it is the new wave. It is the next big thing.
That's the word, explosion, that we're seeing.
Yes.
Yes.
But the particular niche, and I like it's even in the name, is the purpose. There's that place, the purpose is really a part of the niche. Is helping people.
That's all I'm called to do. That's my assignment on earth, is to help people find life purpose, because it befuddled me for too long, and I know what it can cause inside the heart when that happens.
I want to come back and hear a little bit more about your story and how you got into it. But Sandra, let's hear from you and what your specialty niche is and the kind of people you work with.
I'm kind of like Dwight. Coaching found me. I went through experiencing a divorce. I was a women's ministry director for many years and speaking and doing conferences and seminars, and went through a divorce, and I kept thinking, I need help. I need guidance. I don't know where to go to get through this and to navigate the legal system, to navigate the unknowns, to navigate single parenting. There were so many unknowns, and it just wasn't out there. And what I was needing was beyond counseling. I needed somebody to help me map out, because my mind at that time was mush. I was reading how to make the macaroni and cheese off the box. You just can't think. So I went back and became a certified and master, both mediator and trainer, but then went also back to become a coach and was certified in that, and then went on to get coaching through the law of being able to do coaching for divorce, for separation and divorce. So my niche is transitional coaching and also divorce coaching, and bringing a biblical foundation into that. Even though I'm very much in a secular a lot of the time as well, they know who I am, my values, my foundation's there, and still bringing some peace and direction. And we'll talk in a few minutes kind of how that's modeled.
So you work a lot then with people really going through hard times, and going
Crisis.
through a divorce, a lot of crisis,
Unknown.
a lot of people who just need some practical input and direction in terms of
And
how
that
do
is
you
what's
get through
important,
this.
practical, navigating practical steps. And as I sometimes say, we have to do 15 minutes at a time, we have to do 3 months at a time. And it's rebuilding. But, oh, the hope,
What do
the
you mean,
power.
15 minutes at a time?
Sometimes we have to take the day 15 minutes at a time.
Oh, okay,
It's
yes.
too big. When you're in a crisis and navigating, sometimes that 24 hours is too big. I'll say, okay, let's do 15 minutes at a time. And then we get to 30 and we get
See,
to
but
an
look
hour.
at the difference. A coach is taking that person who's going through this major life transition and
Forward.
is guiding them forward.
Absolutely.
Because coaching is very forward-based, whereas counseling, you're going to the past, you're going to look at what caused the marriage to fail, you're going to look at all those sad things.
Very
That
different.
coach is saying, I'm gonna walk with you to be able to rebuild this next chapter in life. Completely different disciplines.
And it changes in this niche. The coach that you need through the divorce process, the coach that you need the first 6 months or year, and the coach you need the next 5 years is different. I mean, I'll talk about group of coaching that I do and how I partner, but those are different, and it's ongoing and changing. So the plan that you help come up with changes. It's not
Because their life is changing.
their life is
right.
changing, and who they are 1 year down the road is different.
That's great.
Great. That's it. Already, I mean, the diversity is just so fascinating.
Yes,
It really is. And Georgia, now you add to that.
Yes,
in
I
your
do
niche.
communication coaching, and I primarily work with speakers and writers. And for me, it was a natural transition. God had clearly called me in the early 90s to be a speaker, and I was trained through class, but I then became on staff with class, which is a 3-day training. It's Christian Leaders, Author, Speakers Seminar. And while I was there, like Dwight, we would have small group settings, and people would say, would you work with me after this? And I was being trained in coaching, and so it was just a natural transition. So many of my clients come through that setting. And then also, when I speak professionally, maybe the MC or another person who's giving their testimony, they'll come up to me and they'll say, will you help me tighten my message? Because the idea is to help them take whatever message God's given them and make it clear, concise, and memorable.
Great coach.
Boy, and we need that. You know, all of us need people.
We've all sat through enough
Yes.
board.
Yeah,
And we're hoping you're not
sign
bored.
me up.
Yeah.
Sign
I
me
can think
up.
of a few
Yeah.
pastors and friends I know. They should call right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So navigate the divorce and navigate the platform.
Yes, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that is amazing.
But when you think about, look at each of these are different types of coaching that will improve the quality of somebody's life, but look at how logically it flows out of the journey that God's given us.
Yes.
That means there was no mistake. Sometimes a terrible tragedy will happen, and a person, as they are coming through that, as they're healing, and there is a place for counseling. We're not saying that. There absolutely is a place for counseling, for professional therapy. But as they're rebuilding their life, they're going to reach a place where it's not about dealing with their pain anymore, it's about their potential. It's about saying, okay, God, you allowed me to live through this pit of despair. What's on the other side? And that's where a life coach comes in.
And that's where
to walk
hope
with
is
them.
born.
That's true.
Hope.
So true. You know, that segues a little bit into my genre and my sort of little niche, is that I am a therapist. I have my PhD in counseling, and I've been a therapist for years. But I've had a lot of people drawn to me because of my area of maybe specialty in writing and research, but the area of stress, anxiety, and depression. And so I will get people coming to me because they're in a place of stress or a place of transition. They're maybe anxious, having anxiety attacks, or maybe just feeling depressed and down. And over the years, I have maybe not even formally, but I have been working with people. Really, I call it integrative, biopsychosocial, spiritual. I've used
That sounds good.
That sounds good.
I want some of that.
but I've worked with people both as whole beings, because I also have my master's in theology, so I'm very integrative. But I've also worked as a whole person, and I've struggled to kind of find the words or the niche, and now with new positive psychology emerging, saying, look, we counsel people both in where they need wellness and healing in both, and where they want to grow and find their strengths. And I'd been doing that for years, and I just thought I was an eclectic kind of biblical, but didn't have words. But I'm finally kind of finding, wow, this is great. But I would find that people will come to me saying, I need help, but I'm in a transition and I would like to get out of my job and I'm stressed. So they come saying I'm stressed, but they don't need therapy. They just need guidance to say, I'm looking to get out of this position and I don't know how to, and there's symptoms of stress. Well, maybe I need a therapist. I'll just go to a therapist, because they don't know that coaching's an option.
And I think that's a very important point that all of us can relate to, because at different times in your life you may need a counselor, but not everybody needs a counselor. But I believe that everybody needs a coach.
I agree.
Because you cannot figure out life. Life changes too fast. The transitions, the decisions. The Bible says in the multitude of counselors there's wisdom and safety. And although there's not a verse in the Bible that uses the word coach, there are many places we would see discipleship, mentoring, to go and find someone who can walk with you for a season. The disciples said, didn't our hearts burn within us when Christ walked with us on the road to Emmaus? And so coaching comes alongside a person for one of those seasons, one of those transitions, one of those life changes, and that's why it's growing so big and so fast, because there's so many changes that people go through. Each of us can help people, but every person who's watching can help people that we couldn't help because of their life story, because of their life journey.
And their expertise.
And I want to say something. I find that in my field, I have just as many men as I do women. And men are so comfortable with somebody walking alongside them, coaching, And the
Yeah, they won't go to a
growth
counselor.
the growth is incredible working with these men. And that's so exciting that we're finally, there's something for men to go to and for growing and growth and direction.
That's such an important point. We should stop there for just a second, because you know, as a professional and a clinical psychologist, that men typically are the ones who kind of dig in their heels and say, I won't go to a counselor. But men are not afraid to go to a coach. Coaching is very popular right now. It has really grown, but they're not afraid of it, and so they can really grow because of it, because they can get past their fears.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to give you an example, practical, real quick here, but I've got about 15% of my clients that will come in for mediation for divorce. And for the first time, you use some of the same skills in mediation that you do for coaching, the same question, clarifying issues. About 15% will say, can we stop? We need coaching. Because for the first time, the man started hearing the wife, and there came a common desire with their clarified issues. And that's just...
Well, men are a little bit, if they go to therapy, it's like, you're going to fix me. There's something wrong with me.
There's a problem.
It's like, I'm the problem, and
not good
I'm
enough.
not going to use them, and there's a defensiveness a little bit to
negative.
say, that, I had this family, I do some parent coaching, because, when, like you said, your kids are young, you haven't figured out, they become teenagers, it's like, we need somebody to walk me through how to do this.
No.
But it was such a relief to have it, to just a paradigm shift, to have it rephrased. This is parent coaching. We need to have someone walk alongside us as we learn this new paradigm, and it's different. Not that you're a problem, you have to be fixed, and it's like this drama. No, it's
look
it's
at
a whole
positive
different.
energy.
It's a positive
That's right.
energy.
It's
to a
normal,
very
it's
people,
typical.
You want
It's
to
life.
grow.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
it's
reality.
And it's the sports. They grew up in sports.
Yeah.
They had coaches.
Identify.
And so using the word coach is very comfortable for
And
them.
a great coach gets results.
Exactly.
And
so
so
they
they're
understand.
not afraid of it,
Yeah.
and they're able to let somebody come into their life to say, you know what, I need someone to help me to be able to move forward. It's more about moving forward, as you said, which is very
Absolutely.
positive, which is about dealing with performance. It's about results, instead of being stuck in the past and and holding hands and singing Kumbaya and saying, my mother made me eat broccoli and that's why I'm so
Right.
screwed up.
Plus, a good coach will always stretch you and get you to do things you normally would not do to get the results you want. And so the guys and the men, again, are used to that.
Do you think this is one of the reasons why coaching is really the new helping relationship and the new direction is specialty coaching? Is it that people are finding a new way to kind of grow and learn, and it's more appealing?
Well, what got me was the Kubler-Ross. I just adore Kubler-Ross's work, the DAB, denial, anger, bargaining, and depression. And yet I saw people getting stuck in the stages of dying. And I wanted to come up with the stages of living, so that what is there after acceptance? We've got to go across that bridge of hope, I call it, into the new land and stay around a while. And whether it's unemployment or cancer or whatever it is, those who do survive need to cross that bridge of hope and keep on trucking.
Reconstruct their lives.
There, retool it. Yes.
Yeah.
And see, and that's where a coach comes in after a major life crisis or major life transition, because we all believe that if God, whatever that pit of despair is, that somehow God allowed us to walk through that. That's part of our theology. We know that it has passed through His hands for a purpose. Finding that purpose and then moving forward to say, you know what? God taught me something, and now I can go walk back through that valley of shadow of death to help somebody else who may have come through a divorce or come through cancer or come through some season of brokenness.
That was what I was kind of going to jump ahead here, but to think about, I do a coaching with groups. So I will look at groups that are, say, 50 and over that have gone through divorce, assess them, see what their needs are. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's putting their home back together, maybe it's whatever we're looking at, and look so we can come up with an overall view for the group to go. And it's 6, usually no more than 6 in a group. But the reason I'm saying that is because they become mini coaches. Accountability, and they're mini coaches, and they go on and journey on. And I will not do 50 plus that their children have left with 28-year-olds that have a 2-year-old. They're in totally different places in their life. So I do group coaching in that, and then we, 2-hour sessions. But they become mini coaches to each other.
To each other, but not professionally. We
No,
wanna be
to each
clear.
other. They start learning.
Like a lay coach.
And then I
Lay
bring in
coach, yeah.
partner coaches, like when we'll start doing financial, I have a coach in the area that does financial. She's a Christian. She and I are on the same, and I'll bring her in to partner during that session with them. So it's
I'm curious just if we can go around again a little bit to find out how you do the kind of coaching you do. We each have different sort of niches and specialty. And what was that look like? You do some group, and then you work with individual partners getting divorced or couples. So tell us a little bit what that looks like.
Will come and coach them whatever season they're in and where they're headed. Then I'll do the group coaching, and then I have some 2 days where we'll do the 2 days where we go away, and that's more of an intensive coaching. And that interesting. You got to work yourself into that one. And then I do the divorce coaching where you could employ me, and I'm going to help pick the attorney, and I'm going to go to every attorney and walk you through the entire process. But that brings me to the next part. When you do niche coaching, very important that you're trained and you know where you're coaching them. I am the only one in all of my area that does what I do. Not saying it, but I have a great rapport with some very large attorney firms and a lot of trust. And you do it well, and it will come.
The respect.
But you've got to be trained in that. So I have training in that legal side of coaching under the
Well, but see, that brings up, we're talking about all these different niches and all these different places and people coming out of their life journey. But there's a place for certification, for training. Those law firms trust you because trust is the foundation. If you didn't have that, they wouldn't be calling, and you sure couldn't get paid for it, and you might end up arrested somewhere because we want to really emphasize to people, whatever that life journey is. Dr. Elmer Towns, who co-founded Liberty University, has a statement that he's made many times. The call of God on your life is the call to prepare for whatever it is that God has called you for. God's also built in the place and the time to prepare for that so that you can be a trusted professional, so that those law firms can trust you as a believer. They know who you are, but they still call because they know you're able to get results with their clients.
And they know her credentials.
And so when you go into a niche, if you were in a niche of health, you need to know about proper foods and the right equipment to train on. Whatever you do, but I do agree, the educational side of that niche is very important to combine both with the life coaching skills and the niche side. And for them to come together.
And I believe as the field is growing, that people are more and more going to look for credentials, for certification, because they've heard about life coach, but I really think they're going to be looking for that more and more.
And in my field, you couldn't do it without the divorce coach. You couldn't.
Do you do groups?
No.
What does yours look like?
My coaching is one-on-one. If it's with a pro athlete, it might be where it's completely away from media. If it's with a CEO, it's away from the rest of their staff. Sometimes it's on the telephone. And that's pretty common in coaching. A lot of coaching, the type of coaching that I would do is done via telephone. But if there's any way, I fly to them or they fly to me. And
or you fly together on their private jet.
We fly together on their private jet. I go into their world more than they come into mine. So even though we have a professional counseling agency in Orlando, and I love to do face-to-face. I would far rather, and the clientele that I'm working with can afford that. So they would rather me be there in person if at all possible, or we use phone calls in between. I speak to groups, but I don't know how to do that because it's a different type of coaching. But in the world that I work, my credentials, certification, what people come to look for and the results that they're looking for say, I only want one-on-one. And sometimes because it's such privileged, confidential, or it's intellectual property, intellectual capital in a company, everything, we really want to always stress this.
But that's the niche.
It has to be confidential, and in that world, that's why I say trust is everything. Because in that world, they know they can trust me to pick up the phone because they know this information isn't going to be shared anywhere. If people violate confidentiality, they put themselves out of business.
And that's the niche, though, that we were talking about, is you do yours different, I do mine. For me, they need the encouragement of others sometimes when they're in that early transition. We all, it looks different. Coaching practice looks different in our niches.
So Katie, what does it look like for you?
Well, we do the one-on-one, but it's male to male, female to female only. I feel very strongly about that.
Same gender.
Absolutely. And it can be either the 1 hour all the way up to 2 days of coaching. But I don't think what I've mentioned at all in any of the videos is or in the training series is the couples. ministry that we do. A female coach will work with the wife, a male coach with the husband, and then they come together for 4 hours to see where their ministries intersect and how they can support each other and be cheerleaders for each other, and it's really phenomenal to watch. So, and we're gearing all our materials now, our new materials, for the college age kids, which just blesses my heart because they need it so much.
That is.
Yeah, the number one college major I think is undecided.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Well, he's changed a couple of times. Oh goodness. And Georgia, how about you? What
it depends. If it's, let's say I'm working with a writer and she's working on an article, then we work closely with, it's the same kind of idea, making it concise and clear and so on, but what are the points, what's the practical information they're sharing, the stories and so on, and is it clear to me if it's not clear to me, and so we'll brainstorm and we'll work that way. Sometimes I work with people who are quite gifted in speaking, but they need that other perspective. They have great ideas, but maybe they throw a whole weekend seminar and 1 hour presentation, which is very typical, by the way. They have a lot of content.
I can relate to that.
And so they'll break it apart. Sometimes they'll send me a tape where they've spoken, and I'll listen to it. And it's really a gift God's given me, that I can really sort of rework their talk, rework the outline, and just pull out their points. Sometimes they have points, but they're buried, and you have to work with them. So it's different depending on the situation.
So the client really sets the pace, and
yes,
always.
Always, it's about what they want
and the goal,
and their agenda and their goal.
And the vast majority I work with on the phone. Most of my clients are out of state. There's one I do meet with locally, one-on-one, but most of them is through the telephone, live telephone.
What I just grabbed when we were all talking too was the need to say, when people bring in a coach, how much faster they move forward.
Yes.
That's
Is
huge.
how neat
Yes.
that they can employ a coach and move faster. And because we're a faster paced, changing world, coaches just, it's so much quicker
Yeah,
to
because
get where they're going.
We can see things that they,
Right? The perspective, the arching perspective.
I've heard that a wise person learns from their mistakes, but a wiser person learns from the mistakes of others
There you
because it saves them so much time. And the number one thing that people want now is free time. And so people are not
commodity.
afraid to be able to say, where's a coach that can help me? We talked, we briefly mentioned health, nutrition, weight loss. There are people who coach in those different areas. But if somebody can come alongside and save you 2 years or 3 years, or save you emotional agony, or save you presenting to be able to really reach people, or to save marriages, or the work that I do in helping people to communicate with their companies to maybe save their company, or the work that you're doing with parents, or the people who are watching this, every one of us has a gift. And of course, we're always surrendered underneath the Lordship of Christ. But it's to say, how can we stay sharp? And for us, it's to continue to learn and to grow. And certainly that's for the people. Because have you heard how each of us, we were sort of finding our way for a while? So that means there is a little bit of anxiety. There is a discomfort zone. There is some awkwardness that you feel for us. And there certainly will be for people who, as they're finding their place in the coaching world.
yeah, and it really does break the learning curve. One of my clients is an international CEO. Great topic, but nobody remembered her outline. So the goal of one of her messages was we wanted the outline so people would remember it. True story. She spoke at a leadership summit, and it was Super Bowl weekend, and the next day I was at a party, and I heard 2 guys talking, and they repeated her outline, all 5 points.
Good for you.
After the Super Bowl.
That was some good coaching.
That's a double win.
They didn't have, their team didn't make it to the Super Bowl, and you're a really good coach.
She's a really good coach.
I'm a really good coach.
We've talked a little bit about some of the specialties we involved in, and I mean, I have like 2 pages. If you go on the internet and look up areas of specialty coaching, I pulled out, I'm even at the Coach Federation, International Coach Federation, it's like 2 pages. And you can get coaching for finances, for living with a disability, for ADD, I mean, just about everything. And then below that's other, So, if people are thinking about getting into a specialty or a niche, what makes a good coach or a coach in a particular niche, and how do you discover that? And you talked about, just in being so animated and talking about helping people. You have a gift. You have this ability to see something and to see how it can come into clarity. And you know, each of you have found a particular gift. So let's talk a little bit about how you discover what your niche is, and how you develop that, and how you get trained for that. And for those who are listening and thinking, gee, you know, what's my niche? How do I discover that? And
I think that you start. Let's say this, and again with apologies perhaps to people who are counselors who think we're stepping on their toes, because we're not. No. Coaching is for somebody.
I've had my share of counseling. Me too.
Okay.
You have to. If you're training to be a counselor, you have to be a counselor.
If you're a good counselor,
you've been there.
You've been there. Yeah. And so we can have our own small group. You know, hi, my name's Dwight, and I've been to a counselor. And some people have said, not quite enough. But when somebody's thinking about being a coach, all right, they're at a place of wellness in their life. They're on the other side of whatever that crisis was. Right. If they're in the middle of it, they're not ready. No. They still need healing, and that's where counseling comes in. We love counseling, and that's part of what God's called me to do, and I've done for 25 years. But if a person has reached the other side, because not everybody will need counseling to solve problems in their life, but everybody needs a coach sometime. And that's why we know that it's growing. So I think that they start by doing some self-examination to say, am I well? Am I healthy? Am I at a good place in my life? Emotionally, financially, relationally? Are things relatively stable? Because if they're not, then we would want them to go back and either get with a counselor or whoever to heal that. Because if you move forward and you're limping and you're wounded, you're going to have so much trouble trying to help yourself, you can't really help somebody else.
Yes, yes. And I think it's the passionate ache that's in their soul. It's the divine urge. It's the fascination of the soul. It's been called a lot of things, but we don't work with people until they're 2 to 3 years healed. You know, that had a woman who, no, it's too sad of an example. I'm not going to give it.
Well, and that's why we talk about confidentiality, because sometimes there are some things that just, until certain things have healed, to share it wouldn't be kind or fair to them, and it also that's also, I think it illustrates a very, very good point, that when God's Spirit challenges us to say, don't go there, to just be so yielded to say, I'm not going to go there, because that's not going to bring honor to Christ.
That's right.
That's not going to be really reflective of what we prayed about before we even turned the cameras on today, and that's that people could catch the excitement of what coaching is about and not feel discouraged, but feel really jazzed up to say, you know what, I am at that place. I think what some people call finding the kingdom of God within you. You called it, you know, this passion, this seeking, this burning in their soul. When they're at that place, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will come, as Mark saying.
Yes, go.
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Georgia.
No, you said about passion, and I just wanted to build on that. As when you're looking about what possible areas and niches, what are you passionate about? I am passionate about working with communicators. And also, what are your life experiences? It's like when we coach them, it's also when we're, you know, the area we're going to specialize in. That's my life experiences. I'm a professional speaker, and that's the area I've been trained in. And so what's the area you know that can help you to hone in on a particular area of coaching?
There's a whole segment that I do on the business training session in this series where I walk the participant through the key areas. It's a kaleidoscope exercise. You know a kaleidoscope that children use?
Yeah, I like those.
Well, a kaleidoscope's a lot of little broken pieces. But you know what? When they're twisted and turned just the right way, it's a beautiful image. And I believe that God, just like a mosaic is broken glass. But God, with that master craftsman, can take those broken pieces and in His hands can put it together, and you go, oh my gosh, this is what I was born to do. This is
I'm
what
in
I was
my element. I'm
to
in
do.
sync.
You're right.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah.
I also think it's when you find that the area you're looking in to encourage them in niches is the area that they see that there's a need.
Yes.
That because when I was going through, there was a need. I wasn't ready to do that for several years, like we've talked about, but there was a need. What is there not fulfilling out there? Where's there the space?
That whole idea of, you know, what I guess it was Isaiah who said, you know, there was no one to go, and so I said, okay, Lord, send me.
Here am I, send me.
And so when we think that there are people who are watching this, and we don't know at what point in time from when we're taping this right now to whatever point in time they're watching it. But I know, because I trust that God's timing and God's Spirit will bring them to a place to say, I lived through this. There was nobody there to do that for me. But you know what? When I put the pieces of that kaleidoscope together, when I look at this, I think this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. And it will make sense. It will line up. It will be so exciting. They will glow. Because they'll say, this is what I was born to do. They will become quite passionate about it.
And I do, you know, today I think, what a blessing. What a blessing to get to do a job that took my life experiences, my gifts, my passion, and my heart for people to see them go to the next place. I get to do this as a job.
Yeah, that's
And the
true.
people are lined
What
up
a
waiting
blessing.
for you
Yeah.
to free up.
What
Yeah.
a blessing. And I've never advertised. They come, and I just, when you're in the right place doing what God's called you and it all comes together, what a great gift.
Plus,
to us.
another thing I'm thinking about when you were just saying about you get to do this, I often feel I'm partnering with God. He's called somebody to give a message. He has this message. How can I partner with God to help create, you know, a really... So I was thinking about that when you were sharing about your heart.
Well, and we've laughed about open the doors and they will come this week as we've been working, and that's what it feels like. So we have to be careful when we hang our shingle out that we are prepared. And I think what we look
Exactly.
for most on our 7-page application that we put forth for the people to come to our ministry is holiness. I'm really looking for holy, holy people. So
Can you talk a bit about what that looks like, Katie? If someone says holy, it's like, oh, I'm not holy, I've had failures in my life. I
Oh, definitely
still have
failures.
areas I'm growing in.
Broken people, yes.
But what does holiness look like that someone feels like, yeah, I feel that God would want me and call me to be able to be a life purpose coach, and I qualify somewhat.
someone who has been broken and lived to tell about it, frankly.
That does not kill me, it only makes me stronger.
There are times I thought about time.
It should have killed me.
Definitely the surrendered person who knows that it's one more step of surrender each and every day, and those who check their motives to see how they're doing. Those who are practicing spiritual disciplines, not because it's legalism, but because they want to. They want to
them
spend
life.
time with Christ, and they're doing life together with other Christians.
I describe a series of steps that I'm working with executives. I remember once sitting in a house that was just, it was palatial. It was magnificent. I mean, 10,000 square feet. The guest house was 5,000 square feet. It had its own putting, golf course range behind it just for that house, the waterfalls and swimming pool. And we were in his house because his wife had left, his children had left, even the cat had left.
That was Don't laugh. We're not supposed to laugh.
I mean, and he said, can you tell me? He said, this house had been featured in magazines, and it was just one of 6 homes. And he said, can you explain to me what's happening in my life? He said, I've got all this stuff, and my family doesn't want me. And I said, all right, and I took a napkin, and I drew on the back of it. I said, there's some steps. I said, and men tend to look at this first step of life, which is stress. If I could just get out of the stress of daily life, it would be easy. I'd have it made if I could just get some money. And they get to the next step, which is success. Yeah. And they get the stuff. And then they get stuff, and they get more stuff. And then, get all you can all you get, sit on the can. And they get all this stuff. They're not happy. And because that stage for many men is all about me, myself and I. The next step, because they're only halfway, the next step is about significance. It's about we. It's about relationship. It's about family. And sometimes you'll see someone after a heart attack or someone after they've been downsized out of a job, and they'll say, you know what, all that matters, or that maybe they've had a bout with cancer, all that matters is my family, and what matters is we. But that's not the final stage. Significance is here. The top stage, you hit on your knees. It's called surrender.
Yeah.
And it's all about he.
Ooh, very nice.
It's
Can I
not
steal
about-
that? Is that
You
copyrighted?
know, but you can have it.
Okay.
You can't steal it, but you can
We've all
have
got
it.
good stuff that we can use.
Because we move from it being about me to we to he, and to me, that's how I explain surrender. And this guy's sitting there, and what's so cool is to see in the business world people who will just start weeping, and they'll say, "What's wrong with me?" And I'll say, "You're dying with a disease called sin." And and I mean, through tears, just, and they'll say, well, is there a cure for it? And I can say, thank God there is. And to see very powerful individuals who've reached the end of themselves and to be able to say, I need Christ.
Yes, it's evangelism and discipleship, and we often focus on the discipleship part, but you're right.
Many times there's opportunities, because remember, in coaching, it's driven by the client. That client sets the agenda of what they're trying to accomplish.
What they need.
And what what their goals are. But when we look at this, it's been astounding to me how many powerful men that I've worked with, and I do agree with the part about gender. I think we can coach out of our journey, but the closer that person's journey is to yours, I think the more you have to share with them, and the more roadblocks are just automatically moved out of the way.
Well, and when you were talking about holiness, you're talking about a heart to serve others rather than about, what's your heart motivation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's the praise and worship song. It's all about you, Lord.
It's not about me, it's all about you. But I think that's part, again, of the niche of specialty coaching or whatever it is. You have to have a heart for it. It has to be part of your life. And we've used this phrase again throughout the series. You have to live the life that you're calling others and drawing others to live. And people will be more inspired and motivated and feel more challenged if there's a sense of, wow, you are really living that and setting that as a tone for me, walking the talk.
In life coaching, you get to share pieces of your story. And so therefore you're a hope, because your steps up down the road and they think, I can get through this and want to grow.
That's a good point, because I was going to comment on that, but let me touch on that piece first, is that in counseling, you don't really share your story. There's some therapists who won't even put a picture of their family in their office because they want it to be so neutral, so Rogerian, so just there it is. This is just about you. But on that list of all those different types of counseling, and we know that it's going to grow. We know that there are going to be people, there are going to be different styles of coaching that's going to become very popular in the future. But if it's not real, if it's not authentic, that there's a term, because on that list, I know because we saw the list ahead of time, there's a lot of things that talk about sales and in the financial world, and there are coaches, and there's a term that a lot of salespeople use called fake it till you make it.
Right.
Get the package. Get the right watch, the $100,000 watch, get the $100,000 car, get the $1 million house, fake it till you make it. That doesn't work. And in coaching, it will blow up in your face, because if it's not real, if it's not authentic, if it's not, like we talked about on the training session on ethics, if it's not built on a foundation of trust out of who you are, people will see through it, and then you're going to end up with a label on your forehead, not this label, but another label that just says that person's a fake. And then, because of the internet, they can Google you, and once you've really got a bad reputation out there, you may not work in this town again, you may not work in this country again, because the internet can find you if you were unethical in how you dealt with people.
Well, at least you won't be effective. You won't help people grow and change the way they could if they were with somebody. No, they won't. That maybe who does inspire and is more invested and who really is more of an example of what they're looking for.
Right. If we're partnering with them in this journey they're going on, and we haven't been on the journey ourselves, how are we going to know where to lead them and guide them? Not necessarily lead them, but partner with them.
Well, I remember the master talking about if the blind lead the blind, they both end up in the ditch. And so when we're thinking about this idea of coaching out of your niche, out of your journey, out of your life experience, when you know your purpose, it will burn inside you. Jeremiah said, it burned inside of me from my mother's womb. Because when you know, this is what I was born to do, and that's not an easy thing to find. We're talking about peeling layers back. It's a lot of work, but God challenges us. It is the glory of a king to dig out and search out a matter. There's a proverb that says that. And so it is to God's glory as we dig in to say, who could I coach? Where could I coach? Where do I fit? And that's a challenge that we're laying down. We're laying the gauntlet down. We're putting a line in the sand to everybody watching this. I believe that everybody watching this can coach someone in some way, and if they will keep growing, that God will reveal that to them.
As a coaching practice, though, when you live out of that, it really makes abundance. You love doing your job. You wake up, you're ready to go. That's what's neat. It's not. I'm sad because we don't all do a job that we wake up more excited about doing, and when they can see you're that excited and enthusiastic about your profession.
Yeah.
And I
It's
love
the
it.
falling in bed though at night exhausted that still has me confused. I'm so passionate about this. Where's my balance? I need a balance coach. Anybody? Might be a good one, Catherine. You can help me.
Yeah,
But I think the other thing that it brings is joy. Because when we are functioning in our strengths and our gifts and doing what God has called us to do, we're going to have joy. There's a level of joy. Now, we do have to learn to live balance, and I've just spent this last year, and my new thing is renewal and restoration, because we can get caught up in whatever it is we're doing. If it's a good thing can become unhealthy for us. Preaching the gospel is a good thing, but Jesus took time to have his little nippy naps and to take a break, and he took his walks, and he had his healthy meals. He ate fresh fish. I know that.
Very
but,
intentional.
Very intentional.
And I have had to do that over the last 5 years. It's become very intentional.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that's a good segue, because when we're talking about niches, we have to bring up the subject of failure.
Right.
The way that you learned that,
Failure?
the way that you learned that, the way that I learned that is that we failed. We tried something that didn't work. When I was first starting in the field of coaching, because it was growing and it was exploding, people would say, okay, go see Bain, he can help you. He can help you with that business. He can help you get on that TV show. He can help you get booked on Oprah. I was working with people that were not a good fit. And it was growing so fast and I wasn't paying attention. And you know what happened? Some failure. I had to go back and apologize to some people because we weren't getting the results, because it was stretched too thin and it wasn't the best fit. And the cure for that failure in my life was real simple. It was called know people like Georgia Schaefer, to be able to say, here's a telephone number of somebody who can do that better than me. And in counseling, in some professions, in law, sometimes there's a lot of turf war. But in coaching, it's the opposite. In coaching, it is teamwork. And so, Catherine, it's being able to hand off, to be able to say, you know what, this person can help you better. This is the next person who will help you in your journey. But we have all had failures.
I want to
And they've
share
made us stronger and better coaches.
Not that I'm necessarily proud of it, but when you're a coach and you're a successful coach, people are moving forward. There tends to be a place, and was for me, that I had to deal with, and God dealt with me, was pride. You begin to see yourself as, oh, pretty good. I can do this, and people are needing me. And he took me down in that area for a while, and it was a real place of pride, and that's still kind of a place of embarrassment a few years ago, but don't forget that, and because I think when you're in a field where people are constantly coming to you and
Well, any helping profession, you can do it as a pastor, as a counselor, as a social worker, any field. There's when you're in a position of impacting people's lives, you can think, well, gee, I did a pretty good job.
and then it's more of God showing up than me.
Yeah.
Well, but then remember, God gives grace to the humble, but God will remove the prideful.
Yeah.
And so, as we're kind of wrapping all of this up, because it's such a huge field, we started talking about God has a journey for us, and I know that would be the challenge that I would leave with the viewers, is that the challenge is personal holiness, wellness, find your spot, and then have the time of your life, because that's sure what we're doing.
Yeah, it sure is. And I hope you got the impression from our conversation and our time together that we are really passionate about what we do. We enjoy what we do, and we have found a sense of our gifting, how our life journey has fit in with what God's purpose is for us. Remember, God wastes nothing. He wastes nothing in our learning and our growing, and He uses that, the grace and mercy that He shows us. He shows towards us is the same grace and mercy we show towards others, and lead them and walk alongside them in their journey too. So we want to leave you with just reflecting on, again, a discovery question for you to think about. What is it in your life experience? What is it in your area of expertise that people might want to come and say, could you walk alongside me to help me grow and become all God has for me, to discover my purpose, to help me walk through this difficult season, to help me learn renewal and balance in my life. So bless you as you continue to learn and grow in the rest of